going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. So look, before I get into it, I'm tired. I am tired. So if I misspeak, allow me to correct myself. And if I don't, please excuse me. So moving forward, welcome back to another episode of Debunking Gun Myths. So let's get right into it. This one is one that I should have done a long while ago, but I don't know why I haven't. So on this episode of Debunking Gun Myths, Glocks don't have a safety on them. Now that would, of course, be a variant of how some people would say it. However, they are mistaken. It's kind of a half right, half wrong situation. I'm going to explain how. So just to help demonstrate, got here my Glock 23. As you guys can see, no mag, chamber is indeed empty. All right, so let's get right into it. So does the Glock platform of pistol have, or do any of Glock's pistols really have manual safeties? The short answer is most of them no. So as you can see, there is no manual safety on my Glock 23. A majority of Glocks don't come with manual safeties. There's a couple of reasons to that. However, what I am going to talk about is the Glocks that do come with manual safeties. So, the Glock 19X, when it was originally supposed to be, sent off to the military, right, for a contract that it didn't end up getting, it did have a manual safety, which in my opinion was absolutely dumb. There is no reason for a manual safety with a Glock, but I'll get into that later. Next, I believe it is either the Glock 46 or the Glock 48. I'm very bad with remembering this one in particular, and you guys will understand why. It is a model of Glock that was only made and sold to, if I'm not mistaken, German police forces. The chances of us getting one of those is like non-existent pretty much. We would probably have to leave the country just to even get a good look at one. And yes, it does come with a manual safety. It actually comes with a ton of safeties on it because apparently the Germans are idiots with firearms. Who could have guessed that? Oh, wow. But just from those two models themselves, at least I'm more than aware that the 19X, especially the civilian 19X that we get, does not have a manual safety. However, when it was originally designed, it had to fall under the rules of having a manual safety. So yes, they did design some with manual safeties. Regardless, though, those two models already disprove that argument. However, so does every other model, and I'm going to go ahead and explain why. So the reason why those two models in particular disprove that argument is because of the fact that when people are talking about a safety, they're more likely than not talking about a manual safety. One that you could operate with, say, your thumb or, your index finger, whatever, right? Now, manual safeties are cool and all, but in my opinion, they just kind of slow you down. If you're safe with your firearm, it's a good firearm. You got a good holster. You should be more than fine. All right. However, some people, they feel very differently, and hey, whatever makes you feel comfortable enough to carry a gun with you, whatever, right? Now, here's something that most people, especially people who are new to firearms, don't realize. They'll hear something like, oh yeah, well, the Glock doesn't have a safety on it, and that's true in the sense of a majority of Glocks don't have manual safeties, yeah, because that's not how they're designed really. But they're wrong due to the fact that Glocks have 3 safeties built into them. So they have, always double check, they have a trigger safety. So you see this little part of the trigger right here that I'm pressing down? If that part of the trigger is not pressed down, this gun will not go boom. Ready? Look, I'm going to go ahead and just, put my finger right on the edge of the trigger. You will see I am not depressing the trigger safety as I am pulling on the trigger. It cannot be fired. It prevents it. It needs, always check just to be safe. I know some of y'all might be like, dude, you checked that gun 3 times. It's clear. Better safe than sorry. But, but as you can see, I am not depressing the trigger safety. The trigger will not go off even if I am pulling on the trigger. You have to press that trigger safety in to pull the trigger. Now, that's just one of them. That's already a decently solid safety that a majority of people overlook. That's, you have to get a good full, grip on the trigger itself in order for that trigger to be fired due to its safety. A lot of companies have actually started adopting that practice solely from Glock. Now, moving on to that, Glock also has a firing pin safety built into it. So, some of y'all might know what Glockenspiel is. So, Glockenspiel, right, is, let's see if, you'll be able to hear it. You're not going to be able to. You got to really shake it with used Glocks like this one. However, Glockenspiel is what they call it. It is basically just when the trigger is depressed on your Glock and your firing pin can just wiggle around. Nothing too major to worry about. That's just how they're designed. However, when your gun is racked, you're going to see the triggers forward, of course, but that rattling will stop. That firing pin will stay in place. It has a firing pin safety built into it, so that way you're not worrying about discharges. You're not worrying about issues with your firearm. That's just number 2 of the safeties that are built into the Glock, not even including the fact that there are indeed some models out there that do have manual safeties, which once again disproves the entire argument itself. Because what they're more referring to, or more likely than not referring to, is a manual safety. Which, yes, once again, I will admit, a majority of Glock models do not have manual safeties. However, there are some that do. You can look this up. This isn't something that I'm coming up with off the top of my head. And on top of that, they have internal safeties. So technically speaking, regardless of whether you're talking about manual safeties or just safeties as a whole, Glocks do have safeties, whether you like it or not. Now, the third type of safety is a drop safety. I can go ahead and put a round in the chamber of this gun right here. I'm not going to because there's no real reason for me to do that. But I can go ahead and put a round in the chamber of this gun. I can throw it around. I can drop it. I can pretty much do whatever I want with this gun. And unless something gets in here and pulls the trigger, it will not go off. There are some other guns, for example, the P320. And if you've seen Garantham's newest video, a good amount of 1911s, but I give that one, I give that one more leeway than I do the P320s. Main reason why is because a 1911's trigger is so freaking light, especially with some of the 2011s that were being used. I can't sit here and say that I don't argue that maybe the inertia would have had something to do with it. That's besides the point. I'm getting off topic here. I'm trying to defend something that has nothing to do with this video. My whole point, though, is that with this Glock, I can sit here and put it around in the chamber, throw it around, do whatever I want to it, and unless something gets in there and pulls that trigger, nothing's going to happen. That gun will not go off because it is a completely safe platform. Now, this video overall, I think, was one of those, besides quicker videos, I knew that this was going to be one of those videos that a lot of people were going to have their own arguments against. That's why I had to cover all bases here. While, yes, a majority of Glocks or a majority of Glock models do not have a manual safety built into them, there are some that do. Are you probably ever going to be able to get those models that do? No. However, there are some that do. And for all the other models, which is pretty much the models you're more likely than not going to be able to get, they have internal safeties built into them. So while, yes, a majority of the models don't have manual safeties, they do have internal safeties put in them, meaning that Glocks do indeed have safeties. With that being said, that clap was a little anticlimactic. There we are. But sorry for those of y'all who are listening in headphones. But with that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And whether or not you agree with me, actually, I don't even know whether you can disagree with me on this one. This is just fact. I mean, you cannot like the fact, but it's just fact. Regardless, though, make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.